you been, my friend?
Good, busy. It's weird, Zach. I know you've dealt with the media days, and I'm actually not in Atlanta this week. And the dread of going to me, like the travel, for a long time with the Big 12, it was a drive. You're like, oh, I don't want to drive there. I don't want to deal with checking into the hotel. And you don't go. And so you're like, okay, that's great. I don't have to deal with that stress. But as soon as media day starts, Zach, it's FOMO. Like it's just I'm missing out on everything. And it's an awesome setting to see what's going on down in Atlanta right now. I got buddies that are texting like, where are you? How can you not be here? And I'm like, I am mowing because my life is hell. And I have two kids that demand a lot of summer attention. But no, it's here. I mean, we're getting close to that 30-day mark in college football. And this is a true sign that we are on our way. And I can't wait.
Now, hold on, Chris Plank. You're a star. You make good money. You can't have someone cut the grass for you?
Well, here's the problem, Zach. This whole summer has been a hell so far. Mower broke, sewage backups, everything that could go wrong in the Plank household has gone wrong. So to ensure that my late August, September, October, November, and December is untethered, I'm going ahead and taking care of everything now. So I'll trade talking with you to being there in Atlanta because it's fun, man. There's so many storylines. It's wild. But yeah, I am definitely my own worst enemy this summer, man.
Well, in your crappy situation, I try to find the positives here. So maybe you have to go through all this hell in order to assure that Oklahoma has a great season this year. That's the way that
I'll trade it all in. I'll trade it all in for the Sooners to have a good season. Now, if you could slide in a good year from Geno Smith and my Raiders, that'd be a little bit better. But that might be asking too much from the big man upstairs. But yeah, And you know what? It's funny not to like just completely dive into the topic, Zach, but I think you know this more than anyone. Brent Venables needs it. He needs it badly for Oklahoma, not just for the program, but for himself too.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. I thought Venables was a home run hire, slam dunk, right? We all saw what he did at Clemson. Clearly the familiarity with Oklahoma from previous times there. And then outside of that, he had that 10-win season, but sandwiched in between were 2 6-win seasons. This is go time. Anything short of them making the college football playoff, especially with Texas coming over, having that immediate success in the SEC, that's a failure of a season for Oklahoma this year.
Yeah, and I'm here to tell you that I am a complete and unabashed Brent Venables homer. So as long as I say I lose all objectivity, I think you guys can't hold it against me. I still think it's a home run hire, and I still think he's going to be a great head coach. But there's a lot of things that are very interesting that have happened here in Norman just over the last 4 months since the season came to an end. They brought in Randall Stevenson. Randall Stevenson, does not have a background in college sports, but was a business guy. Ran AT&T, is on the Walmart board. Brilliant businessman, and he became the head of football. It's just kind of unique, right, to have a guy with no real true football background, and he took that over and didn't take a salary. And then immediately they got what I kind of consider to be one of the best hires of the offseason in Jim Nagy to come in and be their general manager and pretty much run the personnel and a majority of the football office. So, and then Joe Castiglione announces that he's going to retire at the end of this year and then serve it as an emeritus role for the next 2. So it's just, I'm a big Brent Venables believer. I think he's going to win here, and I think Oklahoma's going to be okay. But you look at all these things that have happened, and it is wild how different of a job it is now from the one that he took just 4 seasons ago.
And with all those changes, this not being a success so far, I know he just got a contract extension a year ago, but does he enter this season on the hot seat, or is that just radio talk for us?
No. I think he would tell you that. In fact, he was asked that in the spring, and I thought it was a great answer. And he's like, you guys might not believe this, but I've had myself fighting for my job every single year. And I believe him when he says that, Zach. I don't think it's like some BS that he's selling you. If you watch him, he is an absolute lunatic. And I mean that in the most glowing way possible, right? He is a crazy person that loves football, but they got to win. And nobody knows that more than Brent Venables. And it's kind of wild to think that the thing that let them down last year, given the recent history of Oklahoma, was their offense. You bring in Ben Arbuckle, very young, talented offensive coordinator. You bring in John Mateer, who has done everything you want a quarterback to do since he got here. Now let's see what he does on the field. Rebuilt your receiver room. Bring in Jay Knott, got a whole new offensive line. So, it's really going to be an interesting year. Defense is going to be good. It's going to be a Brent Venables defense. But if that offense is just a skosh better, Zach, I think they got a chance to be pretty special this year. I really do.
All right, when we stay in the SEC, I wasn't expecting to be talking about Nick Sabin today, but then I see that Greg McElroy says, and I like Greg a lot, and I trust him, obviously. He talked to someone in the know that said Sabin will be returning to coaching. I would still be surprised if Sabin ever is coaching again in college. I think if he does make a return, it would be to the NFL, but give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was blown away by it, and it's interesting because I like Greg too. Greg's one of my guys, but whenever he laid out his report, he had Paul Feinbaum there with him, and then both of them proceeded to completely dump all over the report. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. They jump on like, yeah, I'm hearing from people, good sources, that Nick Sabin wants to coach again, and then immediately, like, that becomes the headline. Nick Sabin wants to coach again, and then immediately Greg curbs it with, but I'm not buying it. Well, are you reporting this? Are you saying he's coming back or not? You know, I've been blessed to be around Bob Stoops, and Bob Stoops is a guy that when he retired early. He retired relatively young, and a lot of people always thought he was going to come back. Well, he didn't come back until a very low pressure XFL, UFL, USFL situation, right? I can't buy it. It seems like Nick Sabin's in that Bob Stoops mold where he's really enjoying retirement. He's really having fun with it. So, you know, unless there's a job that Nick Sabin looked at and said, I want that job. And there's several with guys that are on the hot seat. USC is an interesting place. You know, Wisconsin's an interesting place. Oklahoma's an interesting place, right? But Zach, what was your read on it? Because I just can't buy it that a guy that seems to be enjoying retirement this much would want to get back in this model with as crazy it is. But then I would kind of think, how you might have a GM that if you come back, you could truly coach. You got someone that can worry about all the negotiating and the money side of it. It seems as if it might be settling down a bit, but I just can't buy that he would want to come back to coach with how much fun it appears he's having in broadcasting and golfing.
And that's hey, we know these legendary coaches, a lot of them would love to coach until they die. Like Larry Brown once, he got fired and he was coaching my friends when they were like in 10 years old in some JCC league. So these guys are addicted to coaching, but the reason he left college football was because of NIL and the transfer portal. So even with the GMs, and that's become more commonplace now, I don't see after 2 years where really not much has changed why he would want to come back outside of the fact that he's just addicted to it. And that's why I kept on saying, and he said it to the Pivot back in January, if he were to come back, it would be to the NFL, because if you're going to coach professionally and college is now professional, you may as well just do it in the NFL.
Absolutely. And I think you hit it on the head. He would get another NFL shot. I mean, he absolutely would. A team would hire him and give him a shot. But it's a grind. You know, it really, truly is. And I can't fathom Nick Sabin saying, I want to get back in that grind. But maybe he has something to prove. You know, maybe the NFL, I guess, less than success is kind of eating at him. I don't know. But I'd be shocked if it's college. I would be blown away if it's college. NFL, though, I'll listen to it, and I think that there's a possibility, but it would really surprise me. I'm Greg McElroy, right? Hey, there, I hear he might come back, but I'm not buying it right now. I would be blown away if it's college. Wouldn't surprise me. I'm like you if it's NFL.
You know, when we get to Texas, obviously the last 2 years, they've been really good, right? In a 14 playoff, they made it. 12-team playoff, they made it, and they were in the Final Four. And if Sark calls a better play, who knows how that game ends up against Ohio State. Now the Arch Manning hype, after all these years of just hearing about him, we, you know, barring good health, get to see him play from start to finish in a full season. At the end of the year, how do you think we're talking about Texas?
I like Arch a lot. I think that he's been given expectations that are unmeetable. And, you know, I go both ways on this. You know, I bristle whenever you have people saying he's the greatest quarterback since Tim Tebow. We had some pretty good quarterbacks between Tebow and now, right? Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield was pretty special. You know, you've had some, I mean, look at Bryce Young and what he did the year he was starting at Alabama. You've got some pretty special dudes since then. But I get the hype. You know, if he was, and this is the common take, right? You hear it, Zach. If his name was Arch Jones, no one would be losing their mind. And I think most people that hear Arch Manning, they truly think that he's Peyton's son. They don't realize he's Cooper's son. I go back and forth because there's this part of me that says he couldn't get the job away from Quinn Ewers, who then went in the 7th round of the draft. But Quinn Ewers was also the highest rated recruit we've ever had in college football. They created a whole new level, like 5-star plus, to grade Quinn Ewers out. So I've kind of gone back and forth. You know, the moments he's had were against a bad Mississippi State and a UTSA or Louisiana Monroe last year, came in against UTSA. We'll see. You know, we're going to find out quick because it's Ohio State, and Ohio State's still very good defensively. I'm a believer that he's good. I don't think that he is number one pick in the draft. I think these expectations that have been laid on him are unmeetable. And I think Texas is going to struggle a bit this year. It's a tougher schedule, a couple tougher road trips that are in there. That's not just the OU fan in me coming out. I'm looking at it as objectively as I can. Blown away by how they were able to consistently improve last year, even with everything that they lost. But when it came to the biggest stage against Georgia in the moments that mattered the most, they couldn't get it done. Now, they were a bad call away from maybe going, and a bad coach's call away from maybe going to the championship game. But Zach, I think unrealistic expectations have been placed on this young man. And I'll tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me if he's back in college next year. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he's back at Texas. He's telling people now that he wants to come back for another year. We'll see if it pans out, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's playing at Texas again another season, 4 full years in college.
You know, I led the show with this today, Chris Plank, and I have all the respect for the SEC. Obviously, for years, they've been the best conference in college football. I think entering this season with the Big Ten having the last 2 national championship winners, they could say that they're the best conference in college football, but it's going to be a game for the foreseeable future of tug of war between those 2 conferences. But the SEC this year, there's a lot of uncertainty, you know, when I look around it. And I started to show the 3 best teams to me in no order are Texas, Alabama, and Georgia, but even those 3 teams have uncertainty. So I'll ask you, who do you think is the best team in the SEC?
And what do all 3 of those teams have in common? They don't return a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Which is wild, right? You got Ty Simpson that we think is going to be the guy at Alabama. Gunner, I just blanked on that Georgia quarterback. Thank you. Gunner Stockton. And then Arch, obviously, at Texas. And then the teams that have returning quarterbacks, right, like Lenore Sellers at South Carolina. You know, I'm listening to Shane Beamer talk today, and holy smokes, I mean, does he have a team that's coming back? Like, I see all the preseason hype, and Shane Beamer's laying out, we've never had this much non-returning talent on the special teams, and we had to rebuild our line. Like, why in the world is this a top 20 team right now? Garrett Nussmeier is back, right? But you know, what are the weapons like around him? You know, they went and hit the portal hard for a couple of guys that didn't meet expectations at Oklahoma. So if I'm giving you my 3 best teams right now in the SEC heading in to 2024, I'll take our 2025. Excuse me. I'll take the bait. You know, I'll give you Georgia. I think they've recruited well. I think they got a great level of talent. I think they're going to be really good. You know, I've got to go with the wave, right, and put Texas in there just because everyone else is. But I think they're going to struggle. And then I hate to do it because it's so homeristic, but I think Oklahoma's going to be really good, man. I really do. I think with John Mateer coming in at quarterback, Jay Knott at running back, it's a completely homeristic take, and you can call me out on it, but they're good defensively. Guys like R. Mason Thomas, you know, Kobe McKenzie comes in at backer now, replacing Danny Stutzman, and they got a guy in Eli Bone who I think has a chance to have a really special year at corner. But you can't count out Bama. You can't count out now Georgia. LSU, I think, is going to have something to say about it. And listen, if Florida can navigate the early schedule, they've got the talent. And I don't know if anyone went from being fired mid-season to being a hero quicker than Billy Napier did. So you asked for 3. I think I just gave you 6. But that's how unknown I think it is right now in the SEC. And to me, it's wild because we're putting so much on teams that are bringing back guys that haven't taken many college snaps at the quarterback position, and I think that's going to show itself early.
Yeah, and that's my skepticism with Florida, because you talked about the coach in Billy Napier. It's very tough. We've seen it before in college sports. People are out, then they get back in, and then usually the following year they're out. Like, look at Neil Brown at West Virginia. You know, we know the quarterback. That's why Napier is still there with this system, and they thought, okay, if you get rid of Napier, then you lose the quarterback. Mm-hmm. But this is go time for Florida. And not only that, you look at it now, you miss a 14 college football playoff and you're Florida, I'm not going to kill you. In a 12-team college football playoff, South Carolina, you better make it. LSU, you better make it. Florida, Oklahoma, those schools, they better make it this year.
Yeah, and it's not just, 8-4. It's not 7-5. Whew, we got back in a bowl game and we were on the bubble. No, you got to get in. And these are fan bases in Gainesville that expect it. A College Station, right? I didn't even mention Texas A&M, who might have one of the more talented roster, and also Reed's back. But, yeah, you hit it on the head, Zach. You've got to go make the playoffs. You've got to be in that playoff mix if you're Billy Napier. And I say in the mix, again, you got to get in. You can't be having South Carolina get in over you. You can't have an at-large like Penn State get in over you. Your resume's got to be strong enough, and you've got to be good enough to where it's not even a question that you're in on Selection Sunday.
But we know that he plays golf a lot, but will he be playing golf full-time next year with Hugh Freeze? You think this is it for Hugh Freeze after this season?
Boy, what a funny story that was. How about Golf Digest getting in the middle of this? So if I came on with you last year, I probably was singing the praises of Jackson Arnold, and I still really believe in the kid. But everything that could work against Jackson Arnold worked against him last year. Oklahoma's receiver room was decimated by injuries. They had injuries that decimated their offensive line. So if they can, and he was a really good offensive coach. No team was more unlucky than Auburn was last year. But last year at the end of SEC Media Days, I heard an interview with Hugh Freeze where they asked him about, what's been your biggest struggle? And he joked, and he's like, my handicap, my golf game. Well, obviously he fixed that in June this year. And I worry that if you're hitching your wagon to Jackson Arnold, I just don't know if that's going to be the recipe for success to save your job, because that's another one of those teams, Zach, that I don't think like an 8-4 is going to be good enough. I don't think a 7-5 is going to be good enough. I think you got to be 9-3 knocking on the door of the playoffs in order for fans to believe the direction you're going. Listen, they're unfair expectations. I know it. But we're talking about places where it has been, this isn't year 2. This isn't year 3. We're talking about year 4, year 5s in some cases. And you got to go out and get it done. And donors want to see it. Money people want to see it. Fans want to see it. And I'll tell you what, I think Hugh Freeze, we might be able to get him as our fourth come next year if we end up needing one, because I just don't know how things are going to turn around for Auburn. They did a great job in the portal, though, man. They've got some explosive playmakers, but we'll see how Jackson Arnold matures, because he's the key to it all.
And last team I want to ask you about is Tennessee. I like Heupel a lot as a coach. It stinks what happened with Iamaleava, because he had a fine season last year. He wasn't great, but he showed some signs. And now he's at UCLA. Aguilar comes over from App State, UCLA, then to Tennessee. They lose Dylan Sampson as well to the NFL, who was awesome, not only for Tennessee, but all through the SEC last year. Do you have any expectations for Tennessee entering this season?
Well, I know the fans do, and they should, to be a playoff team, right? That's the bar. But they lost a lot. And, the Iamaleava thing was just not that Nico was out there slinging it like we expected him to, but he was good. Now this idea that he just sucked and he was terrible blows my mind. And he was getting better, and he was developing, I thought, under Josh Heupel. I couldn't believe that the bailout on this was something to do with development, because I thought he was developing. So I think it hurts you. I think it hurts you a lot. But they still have talent. They've recruited well. And I'll tell you what, that make or break game for Tennessee is Oklahoma. And if Oklahoma goes in there and beats them, I think it's going to get real dicey for Josh Heupel this year. They beat Oklahoma and continue to roll and protect their home field and win a few games. They think they got Georgia coming to Tennessee this year. I think they've got a chance to be pretty good, but man, they lost a lot, and it's a lot that they lost to the National Football League, and it was a portal loss in the quarterback that you had counted on and you had recruited for so long and was the first real money guy. So I know the expectations are there for them to be a playoff team. I see a middle of the pack, maybe even struggling a little bit more in the SEC, but I'd love to see him surprise, because I think Josh Heupel is one of the coolest stories in coaching about everything that he's overcome after getting fired from his alma mater, working his way back up from Utah State to Missouri to Central Florida, and now to Tennessee. But I think this is going to be a tough one in Knoxville this year.
Who's the quarterback you trust the most in the SEC entering this season?
That's Garrett Nussmeier, right?
That's my answer. And I don't love him. I kind of think I'm not saying style of play, but a little Jackson Dart, where he's good, but I don't think he's ever going to be great at the next level.
And I don't think he has the mobility of Jackson, and this is another one of those guys that, if you love the old school football, right? And by that, I mean dudes that go to college, stay there for 4 years, don't enter the portal. You're rooting for a Garrett Nussmeier, right? This is a guy that you want to see go out and ball. But I don't know. It's just Brian Kelly seems to always find a way to get crossways with the fans. And I could see that happening again. LSU has a rough schedule, a big one early in the season, but he's the guy that I would have to say I trust the most. And even though Lenore Sellers controlled his turnover problem, they did a good job protecting him last year. And now they've got to replace the interior of their offensive line at South Carolina. So I don't know when he starts getting pressured if he's going to make the mistakes he did early last season. So, yeah, I think Garrett Nussmeier, I think you and I would be unified on that because, it's not like it's a big drop-off to talent at number 2. There's more talented quarterbacks. But there's a guy that's been in the fire, that's fought, that understands the system, and he would be the guy that I would trust the most in this league right now.
So then off of that, at the end of the year, who do you think will be the best quarterback in the SEC?
John Mateer. No, I think Mateer is going to be really good. I think Lenore Sellers is going to be really, really good. But yeah, I guess I think John Mateer is going to have a breakout year. And if he can handle things to the degree that he has off the field leading up to the season, hey, Zach, you got to get the guy on. I mean, when it comes to kissing babies and it comes to being the politician and all the NIL stuff, it's Baker-esque. Now let's see if it works on the field. Listen, Oklahoma's got to stay healthy. It's wild how unhealthy they were last year and how much they lost. But if they can stay healthy, I think by the end of the year, people are going to be raving over John Mateer at Oklahoma.
Yeah, we'll have Mateer.
Very homeristic take, I know.
We'll have Mateer on the show anytime. Put in a good word for us at Oklahoma and get him on the show, all right?
I will, Zach.